Byrdie here with Redbyrd Designs, and we are doing Christmas card painting. Let me just double check everything's working. Yesterday I talked for about 10 minutes before I realized my audio wasn't working, so that was awesome. So I better double check that right away. Just double check everything's working. Okay, I can hear myself. So if you're able to join, say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. Are you painting along with us? Are you catching these on the replay? Are you attempting to paint your own Christmas cards? So we did have a virtual party planned for painting Christmas cards, and it was a paid event, and we decided to just offer this as a free event. So we're here all week painting Christmas cards, one Christmas card a day at noon. So yesterday we painted the snowman. So if you didn't catch this, check out the Facebook page and find this. You can catch that on the replay. It will be there, well, until Facebook tells me to take it down. But we painted the snowman yesterday. If you want to paint along and you would like a supply list and the tracers, please message me and I would be happy to give those to you. So they're just little printouts that you can use to get the image down, and it helps guide you through the painting process if you're fairly new and sketching things hold you back in that area. Double check everything's working. Okay. I'm also going to just make sure I can see comments, okay? So here are the other Christmas cards that we're going to be doing this week. We've got the gnome that we'll do. We've got the truck and tree. We've got a kind of a vintage watercolor feel with the bells and joy. And all you really need for this is some cardstock. So I took some cardstock that I had and I cut it down into 4.5 by 6 inch size. And the reason I use that size is because the blank note cards that I have, these just craft cards, are 5.5 by 6.5, I believe. Let me grab them. So I just got this value pack at Michael's. It's a Recollections brand. It came with the cards and the envelopes, and they are 5 by 6.5. And so I cut my cardstock so that I could still see some of that edging around, and I kind of gives it a nice border. But you could do however you want. You could even just paint right directly on this surface as well. Excuse me. Okay. So cardstock, a blank note card with envelopes. For the brushes, I'm just using a couple different sized flats. And then a couple different sized rounds. And because this painting's small, smaller brushes work great. I've got my liner, a small round, and then a medium round is all I need there. I am going to use a fine tip Sharpie for creating the wording and the stitching around the edge. Okay? And give me 1 second. I can hear my pup whining, so I better let him out before he starts barking. Okay, sorry about that. So I could hear him whining about something, and I knew he'd just keep at it. Okay. So where were we? We were talking about supplies. So I talked about my brushes, just a Sharpie for writing out those words. So if you don't have a Sharpie, you could just use a pen, maybe a felt tip pen. You just want to make sure that it's not going to bleed or have too much discharge. And what I mean by that is you don't want it to hit this porous surface of your paint and then start to spread. So test it before you use it on something else. So just grab some scratch paper, throw some paint on there, let it dry, and then test a couple different markers and to see how they're going to react with that surface so that you don't end up ruining your Christmas tree. Okay, and then also I did this white border around my Christmas tree card here. Let me show you. The gnome does not have a border, so I painted it right directly to all the edges. And so to create that fun white border, that matte border, we're just going to use some masking tape. So place your card down on your surface, and then we're just going to line our masking tape, and I just eyeball it. You could measure it and draw lines if you want. You could use washi tape for this process too, but don't use, what's the word I'm looking for, like a Scotch tape. You want something that is going to easily remove or be able to be removed. So masking tape works great for this. Okay. And then just gently kind of burnish the edges so our paint doesn't seep underneath. And you don't want to press too hard though and then have a really bad seal and then it will tear your paper. Okay. So I don't have a tracer for this. There is a tracer available, but my printer's not working, so I'm going to just forego the tracer for this. The tracer really is just getting this information down. So I kind of sketch this out, and I'll use this as my tracer later on. But this is one single tree, and I'll show you how easily we can create this fun Christmas tree without a tracer, since I don't have mine. Okay, so the backgrounds first. We are going to, well, let me talk about my colors. So I've got a white and a black I'll be using, and then the blue cotton for the background, so just a light colored blue, and then green for my Christmas tree, and then I also have a red for some berries. And you could definitely add Christmas lights to your Christmas tree. You could use yellow, blue, you could use silver and gold and add little dots of gold on there. You could do a lot of different things there. So don't be limited to the red berries if that isn't something that you like. You could do colored lights on it. Okay, so for this background, we're going to do kind of an ombre effect. We're going to start with the darker, or this full cotton blue, and then we're going to fade it back down to the ground. So I'm getting a little bit of that blue out on my palette, and I'll also get some white. And so you kind of want to have an idea of where your ground's going to be, so you know where to stop. And I'll just grab a pencil here and go about a third of the way up and just draw kind of a mound across, just a really light line, just so I know where my sky is going to stop. Because down here is going to be white for snow. Alright, so I'm going to use my flat brush for this, and I'm going to start with just straight blue on my brush, and I'm going to go back and forth in brush strokes, back and forth motion here. I'm going to start to just lay that paint across my little card here, and I got a little bit of a crusty in there. And then as I go down, I'm going to need more blue. I'm going to start to pick up some white. So I'm going to grab some more blue on my brush, and then I'm going to grab some of the white. That's going to allow me to create this ombre where it's going to start to get lighter. And so then my next brush strokes are going to just continually get more white, so I get a lighter blue. And just work that paint back and forth until you get the colors that you want. So as I get closer to the ground, more white on my brush, less blue, and I get a really, really light colored blue. Okay, so that's our sky. We're going to let that dry, and we're going to put in our snowy bottom here. And I don't want my snow to be, or I don't want my ground to be just pure white, because, well, snow isn't really pure white. We're going to have some shadow in it, and it's going to look a little gray. Sometimes it looks a little blue. And so to have just a pure white bottom here would give us just a really flat ground, and we want to create the illusion that it's, you know, got a surface there. So I'm going to get a lot of white, and I'll put it off to this side here, and then just a little bit of some black. So I create a light, very, very light gray. It almost looks white. Hi Linda, hi Erin. How are you ladies today? So I'm just creating the gray line back here with my brush. And it's not straight across. I'm kind of giving it just a little bit of a curve here. And then I'm going to just bring that color down and continually add white to it so it even lightens up to almost a white color. But we've got that gray color along the back where that's our horizon line. And then another ombre almost where it's going to just slowly get lighter as we come down. So we've got shadow back here, and then as it comes down it gets lighter. That's really hard to see on screen. See if I can show you. And then here I've actually added some more shadow after the fact too. So we'll even add a little bit more shadow after we get our tree placed in here. Okay. So let's get started on this tree. So the tree is, I guess we do need the burnt umber. I always forget that color when I'm listing my colors off. I'm going to take my medium round, or my small round, and we're going to put our trunk in, our tree trunk. Just use a little bit of that burnt umber, and we're just going to decide where we want our tree to start. And I'm going to start it about halfway down my ground area here. And I think I grabbed the brush that I was having problems with yesterday. It needs a trim. I've got a few wayward brush bristles sticking out. Don't be afraid to give your brushes trims if they need it. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go about halfway in the ground there, and we're going to just bring that straight up to about, so we have about a third of the card left up there for our words. Then I'm going to come back and kind of just thicken it as I go down on both sides. I don't want it to get any thicker up here though. We're just going to thicken the bottom a little bit. Then I'm going to dip my brush in a little bit of black and add a streak of black to it. And there we go. Okay. All right, so to do this type of tree, I am going to use a flat brush for this, and I'm going to show you with my original hair. All we're going to do with this flat brush is use it as a stippling motion, or a like a stamp, or a pouncing motion, I guess. So I'm using the flat edge of the bristles here, and I'm just going to tap it along and create those branches with just the very tip. I'm not pushing down this way. I'm not pushing down that way. I'm literally just, once it hits that surface, I'm not depressing the bristles down. That's a tongue twister there. I want them to keep upright. So you're going to see me do this as we work our way down. Maybe that's better if I do it like, so you can see it that way. There we go. So when you press down, you don't want it to do this. You're just going to go straight down and straight up. Okay? All right, so let's get some of that green out. And I'm going to start by mixing a little of my green with some black, or you can use the burnt umber, but we want to create a dark base first, and then we're going to come in with just the solid Christmas green color. We'll layer that on, and then we'll add some highlight, so we'll create a lighter green. That allows us to create a Christmas tree, or a tree that has some depth, because you can see in this one I've got some dark areas in here which make it look like they're further back, you know, down inside there. It gives us that dimension that we want, instead of just using all one color, which would then make our tree look flat. So I'm just going to mix a little bit. You don't need a lot. So I just grabbed a little bit of that burnt umber with some of my green here. You can see it's created this really pretty dark green. Okay, so I'm going to load my brush up, and I want to make sure on my palette that I'm creating that nice flat edge there. So at the top here, it is kind of skinny, right? So I can't really just do this. I wouldn't get a nice pointed edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the tip of my brush this way. So I'm going to hold it kind of at an angle and dab just a few there, and then as I work my way down, I can start using that full brush as the to create the branches. So I'm just going to dab a couple at the top here and slowly just work my way down my tree. Okay, and then as I get further out, I can use the full length of my brush here. So now I can come in there, and so if I just show you just that one brush stroke, that's one branch. And so we're just going to bounce that brush back and forth around our tree trunk and slowly increase that as we go. So we're building it out. Now this first step doesn't have to cover the entire tree. We're going to have some gaps because we're going to come back in with that different color green and fill that in. It's really nice light taps. We're just depositing that in those, that paint in as the branches. So at this point you can kind of see that my tree is getting a little lopsided, but that's okay. I'm going to come back in with some more color and we'll get that filled in looking good. Okay, so now that we've got our dark in, I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to go right into that Christmas green that I have on my palette, and I'm going to pick some of that up. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to dab a couple little dots at the top here to create that top piece. And then I'm going to then go into that upright motion and dab in some of that lighter color. There we go, it's starting to fill in nicely. See if I can turn it just a little bit here. And you could take your branches all the way to the bottom where you don't even see a trunk. You know, sometimes the trees sit right down on the ground, or the snow has kind of built up around there and you don't even see the trunk. So I mean, you could even just take it all the way down and not have a trunk if you wanted to. Okay. Okay, so now let's grab a little bit of that green, push it off to the side, and I'm going to get a little bit of the white. And we're going to lighten up that green for some highlights. You don't need a lot of this. We're not going to do the entire tree like we did with the dark and the Christmas green. We're just going to dab a couple little bits there. So you can see my lighter green here. So I'm just randomly placing some little bits of that lighter green everywhere. Not a lot. Okay, and you could fill in the entire tree. I like to see little bits through my tree, kind of where you see where the branches might not be filled in all the way. So there is our Christmas tree, using just a flat brush. And you could use different size flat brushes too. If you wanted to use a little bit of a smaller one, you just get smaller branches, and you could then, you know, fill it in a little bit different. You're going to get a little bit different look that way. So it all depends on the size of your flat too that you're going to use. Okay. Next step is let's put some snow on our tree. So for the snow, I am going to, let's see, I need a little bit more white. Using the same flat brush, we can just add a little bit of snow to the tops of our branches. So you could do the same thing. You could dip it, the flat brush in, and just dab a little bit of white everywhere. But let's use a round and show you how that looks a little bit different. So I'm going to use my small round here. And I'm going to just deposit, I'm just going to lightly tap in different areas that white. It's not a brush stroke. This is just the same thing where we're just creating these little mounds of snow on our branches. So it's just a little tap, tap, and lift up. And if you wanted to leave the snow off, you could. There we go. So using this brush creates these little pockets or mounds of snow, right? In this one, I used the flat brush, so it's more like a really light snow coverage on this tree. Like I said, I just used my flat. I got some white on it, and I just tapped the white every, throughout the tree. And so this one looks more like a light snow cover, as opposed to this one has just these little mounds, more of a heavier snow cover maybe. Okay. All right, so next step is to put our berries on. So I did red berries in this one, and I think I'm going to, maybe I won't do berries. I always like to change it up from painting to painting. I can never just leave well enough alone, I guess. And I don't have any silver or gold here. Oh, I do have gold. I think silver would look better with this really blue background. All right, let's stick with the red. I don't have my silver here. Oh, I do have silver. Okay, let's do silver. It's calling to me. So I'm gonna get a little bit of silver out, and for the berries, I'm just gonna use the back of my brush as a stamp, and I'm gonna dip it in the paint, and then I'm just gonna come out and drop, press, lift up, and it just creates these great little circles right on my tree. No rhyme or reason to how I'm placing them. I'm just randomly placing these little dots on my tree. If you were doing Christmas lights, you could, create little swoopy patterns as well. But I just did some random ones. And I'll hold this up here in a little bit so you can see those a little bit better. Okay, so we need this Christmas tree to dry before I can do the transfer of that. So I want to show you how to do that. So let's put in the stitching around the edge here, and then we will finish off with the wording. So I'm going to use my Sharpie here for this process. You could use, you could use a liner brush and black paint if you wanted to. When you are using a pen, Sharpie, paint marker, whatever that may be, you want to just make sure that everything is dry, because the wet paint will ruin the filaments in your tip, and then it won't be as sharp and it will start to fray. So I'm just going to create this stitching effect all the way around. And did I not grab a good one? So just little dashes all the way around my tape. And then here, where my sky and my ground meet, my horizon line, I'm going to drag a line across that. So if you're just hopping on and you're just catching this at the very end, we are doing 5 days of Christmas card painting. I'm going live every day this week to paint a new Christmas card with you guys. And yesterday we did the snowman, so if you want to catch that on the replay, it is still available on our Facebook page. If you'd like supply lists and tracers, feel free to message me and I'd be happy to send those to you. My marker's giving out on me, guys. Okay. There we go, stitching is done. All right, so I'm gonna blast this real quick with my blow dryer so we can do the wording here real quick. So, to do the tracer, I'll try and cut this out. We've got the Oh Christmas tree up here. We're just going to line it up where we want it. Call that good right there. Then I'm going to tape it down. And I'm going to use some graphite paper to transfer those words onto my painting. If you didn't have graphite paper, you could just take the back of this and a pencil and just do something like this. And then when you flipped it back around, that would then transfer that graphite onto your image if you didn't have graphite paper. So when you're using graphite paper or carbon paper, make sure that you do your shiny side down. So graphite paper has the shiny side and the dull side. You want the shiny side down on your surface here. I'm going to lay that there. And then with a pencil, I'm going to just lightly trace over my words. Okay. And there we go. You can kind of see that put that in for me very, very nicely. I'm going to take my Sharpie and just go over those and find a new Sharpie actually, because this one is dead. And it could be that I'm rushing my paint. I could still have a little bit of some wet paint going on, so that could be a reason why my Sharpie's not working. You really want your paint to dry before you try and use it on, try and use your Sharpie on it. Okay, so I'm just thinly creating these words, just tracing over my transfer here. And then I'm going to go back and add fun little dots to the different points on my letters. Okay, so for instance, let me see if I can just bring this up close for you guys. So I added a little dot at the top of my O. I added little dots to my H's here, where my C ends. And I just kind of feel like that gives it more of a stitched look, since I did the stitch looked around that. Kind of maybe an embroidery look. So definitely don't have to do that step. Just a little circle kind of adds some fun to these letters. we go. All right, one last step. We want to put some shadow down here. Now you could go and use the silver for that and create this shiny metallic base, or you can create a gray. Either way works. If you don't have silver, you could just create a gray with the white and the black. So I'm just going to get a medium round here. Grab some of that white, a little bit of the black. And black goes a long way, so use it very sparingly. I got a little too much here. I don't know if you can see that. You can't. Okay. So I'm just going to come in and create the shadow under my tree. Brush in a little bit of that gray. Grab a little bit of white and kind of blend that in. When you're creating a shadow, you kind of want to think about where you want your sun to be coming from. My sun is typically up here, and it's typically, you know, shining down this way, so my shadow is going to extend that way a little bit more. So this area is going to, you know, have more shadow than over there. And if you get your gray too dark, just add a little bit of white to it and brush back over that and blend it in. Just a really, really light gray. You don't need a lot there. And that's it, guys. That is the Oh Christmas Tree painting. So let me take this tape off and I'll hold it up so you can see. And we'll do a comparison side by side. I think this tree got a little bit smaller than my other one. So if you guys are painting along with me, I'd love to see your creations. Yep, this tree is a little bit smaller. But let's see if I can show you the sheen of those silver dots. It's really hard to show on screen that metallic color, but it sure does make things pretty when you can use it. So what's fun about these Christmas cards? One, giving a handmade gift, handmade card, hand-painted card, excuse me, is such a blessing. I feel like it's just gonna brighten somebody's holidays. I hope if you're painting them that you do send them out, sign your work, and bless somebody with your guys' handiwork. Then I grabbed the Sharpie that was not working. But the other great thing, besides giving somebody something handmade this holiday season, is no two are ever going to be alike. These two are completely different, which just adds to the charm and character. Everyone's going to get a unique card from you. You could literally write on the back, one of one. All right, ladies. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to painting with you tomorrow. Let's see what we should paint tomorrow. Let's do the, what am I grabbing here? Let's do the truck tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll do the truck and tree. Same time, 12 o'clock. I'll go live and we'll talk about painting that guy. If you guys paint these, share your work, post them in the comments, share them on our page, tag me in your artwork. I'd love to see what you guys are creating. If you're catching this on the replay, let me know. If you have any questions, message me. I'd be happy to help. If you want the supply list and tracers, I'll give those to you as well. So just let me know. I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for joining me. Talk to you later. Bye.